Hi everybody, it's Josh White with Lucas Lighting, and today we're going to talk about the different bulbs that we have. What if I need a decoder with this one and I don't need a decoder if I use that bulb? Maybe a different bulb would be better with a resistor. Maybe there's a bulb where I don't need a decoder or a resistor, and so maybe I could upgrade one spot, and it will save me having to buy additional components. So I'm going to talk about all the bulbs and what's built in with them, and then give you some examples on where you might need aftermarket gear or no gear at all. So stay tuned. Okay, the first bulb I'm going to start off with is MX. MX comes in the purple box. The advantage of this bulb is that it's really close to the OE size, especially in this H7 that we're showing. Very common with Mercedes. You can put this in. You don't need any adapters. Typically, you don't need any decoders either. It's also good for BMW, Volkswagen, some Hyundai, Kia, even where you won't need any adapters. In some Mercedes, like S classes and things like that, and in pretty much every Volkswagen, you would need to add a resistor to it. And this is nice because the wires are pretty long and it's very tight in those cars typically. So you would just put one wire on each feed of the lead and then mount it up away from anything that you don't want to get hot. And these are the 6 ohm 50 watt resistors. So these two go together quite nice. The only time you'd need a decoder with this is if you're dealing with pulse width modulation in that specific car, which we'll get to in a minute. Okay, the next bulb that we have is the M2. The advantage of this is that it's really good in open back sockets that are exposed to the elements. So think fog lamps. If the back is open, this is going to be really resilient to the elements. It does have a external controller, and this is basically CAN and resistance. So if you put this in and it flickers, you're going to have to add a decoder for sure. Otherwise, for most cars, you can just plug this thing in and it'll do just fine. This is also the only bulb that we have currently that will run down to 6 volts. So in daytime running light configurations, this is also very nice because it will run 12 volts in the brights and 6 volts with daytime running lights. I've done a video on that before. Okay, next bulb is the L1. So the L1's a very high quality bulb. It's got a bigger heat sink. No controller box, so this is very basic in terms of the electrical components that are built into it. So for most modern cars, you're going to need most likely a decoder with this. And the way to check is really just unplug one of your lights, turn your car on. If you don't have a bulb out error, you could probably use this with no parts. I have a 2009 Toyota that runs these. No decoders needed. I don't use any decoders on these for that car. Any older car that doesn't have bulb out detection, this is probably going to be fine with no additional parts. So it's just more of a basic bulb where, if the car doesn't require any kind of integration, do an L1. It's a great bulb. Okay, the next few I'm going to group together. So L2, L3, and L5. If you look at the external boxes on these, they are all pretty much exactly the same, okay? So all 3 of these bulbs, the L2, L3, and L5, these have CAN, lateral logic, resistance, all that stuff built in. They do not have capacitance built in, okay? So if you have any kind of pulse width modulated vehicle, you're gonna have to add a decoder to get that capacitance, okay? I will have an example of that right now. Okay, you can see in that example that I'm looking at an LED, but if you have a halogen bulb in a factory housing, you just take your phone out, put it on video mode, and if you're getting that flicker like you saw in that video, you definitely have a pulse width modulated vehicle. You're gonna see that in Chrysler, Jeep, Dodge, some Fords. You're gonna see it in a couple of other random cars too. Best way to check is get your camera out and film it. If the car's not in front of you, have your customer go out and film it. And yeah, if you have any of that flickering, you're going to need decoders. One exception to that, L4. Okay, so L5 is our brightest bulb, right? But L4 has our best outboard controller box, okay? This has resistance built into it, CAN. it has capacitance built into it. So this is the closest you can get to an actual full-on decoder without having a full-on decoder, okay? So if you have flickering, you can just plug this in. A lot of times you don't need any additional parts. So the best bet that you have for not needing additional parts is running an L4, okay? Okay, a couple of last minute thoughts, okay? The resistance that's built into this is more robust than any resistance that we have built into any decoder, okay? The CAN is more robust and it has more capacitance than the capacitance in the L4. So if you ever have any problems that are not being fixed by the built-in, just put a decoder in. If you're unsure, just quote it with the decoder. Just put the decoder in. If you're an end user and you're not sure, just order it with the decoder. This will pretty much guarantee that you're not going to have any kind of flickering or bulb out issues at all. So when in doubt, just throw a decoder on there. If you're doing an MX in a Volkswagen, you don't really need a decoder. The decoder is bigger too. It's quite large, so you know, and you're limited by the harness. So in a Volkswagen, this is nice and long, and you can move it kind of anywhere you need to. We do sell smaller resistors. Just want to make sure that you're not confusing the two. This is only for small marker lights. It solves fast flashing and things, bulb out issues on smaller bulbs. If you're running a full headlight bulb, you're going to want to use this guy. This guy's the 50 watt version. This is the 25 watt version. So small bulbs, big bulbs, pretty easy there. If you have any questions, my tech support number is going to be up after this video as usual, and we'll see you next week.